Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel for everything Arsenal and everything football. And welcome back to the prediction show. Match day 10, match week 10 is almost here. Games are coming thick and fast, closing in the festive period. So games are all over the place. And I have a special guest with me back on the channel again. Dom, how are you, mate? Fulham
Yeah, not
fan,
too.
by the way.
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Yeah, we've got a big hectic run of fixtures now ahead into up until March now. But I mean, yeah, there's loads of football on, so you can't really complain too much.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for coming in again. Any surprises for you so far this season before getting to the prediction in terms of the table, top half, bottom half?
I don't think necessary surprises. I think, and if you're looking at the bottom to start off with, I think the teams who are struggling are the teams you would expect. Maybe some people to be surprised with Sheffield United, but I do think the fact with no fans is affecting them a lot. You could see that post lockdown
Yeah.
for them. And I think you when you are a team who's been promoted, you have such a successful season, and you're not like a Newcastle in that respect. Or you've got the system that Wolves have got in place. Second season syndrome is often something that teams face. I think we're looking towards the top. I am surprised with Spurs a bit. I didn't. I thought they'd do well and push for the top four, but I didn't think they start as well as they have. Obviously, they brought Gareth Bale in, which is not just a boost to the sort of how good players are in the squad, but a boost to sort of how mentally for the players with a player like Gareth Bale coming in for always won it during his time at Real Madrid. Southampton, I wouldn't say they've been a surprise, but I was interested to see how they could keep up with their form towards the end of the season. But again, they've looked very, very good this season. But I don't think there's been any major shocks. I think the major shock's probably been that the top sides haven't been as good as people were expecting, maybe because
Yeah.
we seem to be seeing a different team top of the table every 5 seconds in this Premier League season. I think it's been a
Yeah.
record of how many different teams have topped the table at different periods. We've seen Leicester up there, Southampton up there, Tottenham up there, Liverpool up there. But yeah, no, I think overall it's been the most surprising thing is how sort of the league's definitely been a bit more competitive than it was beginning of last season when it was basically just a runaway for Liverpool and Manchester City.
Yeah, the likes of Everton and Villa have also been top of the table. So are you excited that fans will be allowed back to the stadium? Will you be one of them, or are you going to pass it?
I'll head back as long as I can get a ticket for the games at Craven Cottage. I think it can only be a good thing. You have people like Gary Neville complaining that it'll give an unfair advantage. I was like, I'd rather another team have an unfair advantage if it means there's fans back in the grounds. I think everyone would agree with that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's if obviously the problem comes with different areas and different levels of restrictions, but I think it can only be a good thing getting fans back into grounds. I think with the introduction of a vaccine, this can only get better, and I think it's just about time to return to some form of normality, really, instead of just sitting at home watching empty Premier League grounds every week. Be able to go to games like for myself, and yeah, I think it's only a positive thing that there's now sort of plans in place for fans to return to football grounds.
Yeah. So match day 10 is here. I know Fulham is not doing well, but Arsenal themselves are not doing well. We've both struggled so far this season. And let's start with the Friday night game. It's going to be between Crystal Palace and Newcastle. Prediction for this one? Any expectations for this game?
I do think Palace will bounce back from their defeat against Burnley with a win here. I think they have to. I think the problem with Palace is it's a similar problem to what Fulham sometimes have. Is that I feel like when they go 1-0 down, they don't really know what to do. But I feel like Palace, when they take the lead in games, are often quite confident they'll see it at the game, especially with a manager like Roy Hodgson at the helm. And I think Newcastle, obviously, I know they're playing Chelsea, who are a lot better side than Crystal Palace, but they were dreadful on the weekend. I think it was a Saturday lunchtime game. It was terrible. And I think Palace have looked good in spells this season. When they came to Craven Cottage and played us, they looked very confident that they knew what they were doing. They don't need to have all the ball. They're happy for the other teams to dominate possession and then hit them on the counter attack. But no, I
Yeah.
think that Crystal Palace will get the win here. I think Newcastle. I think could get dragged into the relegation battle this season. They don't look too good. I think they would have been dragged into it if the bottom 3 or 4 teams, including ourselves, would have picked up some more points this season. But it's been very poor down the bottom. But yeah, I'm confident that Palace will get back to winning ways here, and I think they'll get a 2-0 victory over Newcastle.
2-0 victory. I think without Zaha, if Zaha is still not fit, I think they'll still struggle. So I'm going to go for a draw, 1-1 draw in this one. And then on Saturday, Brighton against Liverpool. Liverpool, do you think they're still the favorites for the championship? Whether they have Salah or not, whether they have Van Dijk or not?
Yeah, I think they had to be favourites. I think there's no one else who's looked when they're in top form, as we saw against Leicester the other night. They are still the best team in the league. You know, we speak about with the like missing a like Salah, but you know Diego Jota's come in from Wolverhampton Wanderers, and you know he's been absolutely exceptional for them. He sort of you wouldn't expect someone to be able to just walk into their front three, but they have. You know, Firmino finally got a goal on the weekend. Mane obviously is a great player in the midfield. So I think they are still definitely the favourites for the title this season. You know, Tottenham, Chelsea. Obviously, the next two teams are up there right now. They've looked good in spells, but they also look like they have weaknesses. This Liverpool team, I think, it won't be like last season where they won the league at a canter by like 20 odd points, 25 points. But I do think they do. I still the team to beat in the league. And if we talk about Brighton, you know, Brighton are a weird one. You know, I think if you're looking at the statistics, they're one of the most underperforming sides in the league in regard to, you know, if the way their statistics have been run, they should be, you know, fighting for top 10 in the table, but they're not doing that at the moment. And I think, you know, obviously they beat Aston Villa on the weekend. Obviously they had the Tariq Lamptey red card and the penalty that got waved away in the last minute for Aston Villa. But, you know, Brighton are a good side. And, you know, they'll probably match Liverpool in regards to their performance, but I do think Liverpool will just have too much of them in the end. So I think Liverpool will probably run out of a 2-1 victory here.
I think it's Salah they're going to win it 3-1. Brighton started the season very well, especially that game against United where they conceded a penalty after the game. They played very well. Don't know what the matter is there, but yeah, 3-1 victory to Liverpool. The next one is City and Burnley. City actually also struggling. What have you surprised with them?
I'm surprised. I'm kind of surprised with them, but I think City are in this weird stage now where they're sort of moving from one team to the other. The team who got the 99 and 100 point totals, I feel like that's a different team to the team they've got now. They're trying to move to the next generation, if you will. And I think they're finding it tough. I think they will get back on their feet and they will be pushing for top four in the title. But, you know, I think if you're looking at the game against Tottenham, I think I've spoken about this not on a podcast or anything, but I've spoken this off air that it's Mourinho. If you're in a one game, if it's a singular game, you probably always back him over Pep Guardiola. But Pep Guardiola over a season, this is why Mourinho wins Champions Leagues and wins domestic trophies. But it's why Pep Guardiola probably wins more leagues, you'd say. But yeah, and I think that Pep Guardiola will be looking to bounce back here. I think they're sort of just, as I said, in a transition phase between one team and the next. You know, they will dominate games still. They'll create chances still. You know, Jesus and Aguero have been injured and not 100% fit all season long. And if any team's missing their two number nines or two main strikers, you're always going to find issues. But I think City will bounce back with a victory here. Obviously, Burnley did get their first win this season against Crystal Palace, but it still wasn't that convincing. It was more Palace not offering anything in the game as opposed to Burnley looking convincing. But yeah, I think City will bounce back to winning ways here with a 2-0 win.
I think it's going to be more than that. So I think Burnley will score. So City 3, Burnley 1. I think they have to start winning games, otherwise Liverpool will be fired by December. Then the next game, both teams, you've played both teams, West Brom and Sheffield. You drew with one and you beat one. West Brom without a win, if I'm not wrong. Is this a 6-point already? And what result do you want? Do you want a draw?
Yeah, I think from a Fulham perspective, I think a draw is the best result here for us. It doesn't let one of the teams go further ahead. It sort of keeps them behind us. And yeah, I think if I'm looking at both teams, as we played them both, Sheffield United were definitely the better side. West Brom, probably the poorest team I've seen this season. I don't know if that was just a one-off performance because obviously they got a few draws. You know, that 3-3 draw with Chelsea. But that was more Chelsea just not bothering to defend in the first half of that fixture. But I think for us, from a Fulham perspective, of draws obviously the best result here. And I think that's what's going to happen, really. I think both teams, neither teams look like scoring too many goals. I think that's Sheffield United's biggest problem at the moment. You know, they don't get battered. They don't concede loads of goals like maybe us or West Brom do. But they just can't score. They don't have a good enough number 9. If you're looking at all their striking outfits, I wouldn't say many of them, if any of them, are Premier League quality right now. Maybe Ryan Brewster might be in the future, but the likes of McGoldrick, Billy Sharp, Ollie McBurney, and Ryan Brewster, I'd say they're all top-end championship strikers. I wouldn't say they're Premier League quality, and I think that's the biggest issue. So I don't think it's going to be an exciting game. I do think it will be a draw, though, and I think it's going to be a 1-1.
I mean, I agree with you in terms of draw, but I think it's going to be a ball 0-0 draw. This is the kind of game that is just going to be not worth watching. So 0-0 draw in this one. It will be good for you guys. The next one is Everton Leeds. Speaking about teams who don't score now, these are teams who score. Like, what have you made of both teams?
Yeah, Everton obviously had a great start to the season. Obviously, Carlo Ancelotti's first full season, they started great. And then what happened was obviously then after the Merseyside derby, they sort of fell apart. Not fell apart, but they lost 3 games on a bounce. I mean, the suspensions they had would have made a big difference. The likes of Richarlison, the likes of Luca Digne, and obviously they were both back for them on the weekend, and they were in top form. And Everton on their day can be good. We saw that in the first half against us, but we saw in the second half against us what's holding Everton back is that they can't seem to do it for the full 90 minutes. In the second half, we were fairly unlucky not to get a point out of the game. And I think Calvert-Lewin is always going to score goals. I think he's the top goal scorer so far with 10 goals. I'm pretty sure he scored about 16, 17 goals since Ancelotti took over them from last season, and I don't think too many have scored more. But I think with Everton that it is just consistency. They can do it. It's just whether they can do it across the season and whether they can do it across 90 minutes. Leeds, obviously, against you guys on the weekend, probably should have beaten you. They just didn't take their chances. I think they hit Woodward 3 times. And, it's cool. I think when we played them, it was 4-3. They got goals in them. I'm not one to use the expected goal statistic too much. I don't think there's too much to read into it most of the time. But you can look across the season that they are creating chances, they are scoring, and they're overperforming. I think if Bielsa wasn't there, Leeds would really be struggling, because if you look at their team on paper, a lot of these players are still championship players. A lot of these players, you'd argue, aren't up to Premier League standard, but Bielsa is getting so much out of them. And I think, as you said, this game should be promising goals. I think when it comes to the result, I think Everton will get the victory. I think it'll be a similar one to the one against us, where it'll be a 5-goal thrill and they'll come out 3-2 victors.
Yeah, you played both teams, as you said, and both games are very good, 3-2, 4-3. So I'm also expecting goals. Leeds, I think I spoke to some Leeds fans the other day, and they say they think that's like the third 0-0 draw in years, like 2-3 years. So they don't do 0-0s, and I think this is going to be probably one of the games of the season. I'm gonna go for Everton 5, Leeds United 3, a very high scoring game in this one. Probably match of the season. The next one, Southampton against United. I have to mention the United penalty the other day. Did you think West Brom was supposed to have a penalty?
I think if one's a penalty, the other's a penalty. I think that it's sort of similar to the Brighton Aston Villa one, because we got a penalty against West Ham, the really bad Panenka penalty from Ademola Lookman, where Kenny gets hit in the box by Said Benrahma. And for me, they're very similar situations where there's contact. He's gone down in the area, and the referee's gone to overturn it. I do believe that a lot of people are saying, if the West Brom penalty was for Man United, it would have been given. I think that, and I know there's not fans there, so you haven't got any sort of pressure or anything. But yeah, I think it was. It's either neither of them are penalties or both of them are penalties. I don't think it's a case of one's a penalty and one's not. Maybe the referees have been told by the association that there needs to be less giving these soft penalties in the box. I don't know, because there was quite a few that didn't get given this weekend. But yeah, for me, it was a penalty. But with Southampton, Man United, I think it's going to be a very interesting game, because I think Southampton have looked very good this season. And although to be fair to Man United, they seem to only be able to win on the road, apart from when they obviously just beat West Brom on the weekend. But their away record seems to be very good. It's their home record seems to be the problem for them. I think this will be a very interesting game. I'm going to back Southampton to get something out of this. I don't think they'll get the victory, but I do think they'll be able to get a point out of the game in a 2-2 draw.
I was going to go for that, but I realized Ings isn't there, so that could be like a blow for them. If he was there, I'd predict a Southampton win, but I think United will get something. They always do. So Southampton 2, United 3, unfortunately. And then probably the game of the weekend, Chelsea against Tottenham, as you said earlier on. Tottenham, the surprise for you.
Yeah, surprise in regard to how well they've played. I wasn't expecting to get going this quickly. I thought they would finish in the top 4 this season, but I didn't think they'd be pushing for the title. But I mean that's still to be asked. But yeah, they've looked very good, especially with Kane dropping into this deeper role, with allowing the likes of Son, Bale, Bergwijn to go and push forward and be more sort of creative going forward. Even the likes of him helping the likes of Giovanni Lo Celso and Tanguy and Ndombele making those runs from deep. And Chelsea, I'm still to be convinced by them this season, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think they look like a top 4 team, but they don't look that much better than they did when they looked good last season. I don't see how much improvement from Chelsea. I still think Chelsea it'll still be not a big ask, but I still don't think they're like search for top 4 or anything. I think they could still easily finish outside of the top 4 because I know Mendy and Thiago Silva have sort of solved some of their problems, but there's still some things that need to be solved here. I'm going to back a Mourinho to get one over Chelsea here. I think that he loves these kind of games where the other team's expected to dominate the ball, expected to have majority possession, and it just allows his Tottenham side to play to their advantages. It allows them to hit on the break with Son, Bale, Bergwijn, as I've said, and Ndombele breaking, Kane dropping deep, playing these overlap balls into Heung-min Son. So I think I'm going to back Tottenham to make it back-to-back massive wins for them here, and I think they're going to edge out Chelsea probably about 2-1.
I think Chelsea's defense has definitely improved, but Tottenham are scoring a bunch of goals. Mourinho also struggles against his former teams when he was at United. He struggled beating Chelsea. When he was at Chelsea, he struggled to beat, I think, Inter Milan, the Champions League or something. And at Tottenham, I think he's already lost to United and Chelsea. So I think they're going to draw this one. I'm going to go for Chelsea 2, Tottenham 2. And then the next one, Arsenal against Wolves. I mean, you've said you guys are struggling, but I think you've actually scored the same number of goals as us. We are very bad attacking wise. We have players to score, but we are very bad. So do you think we'll get the better of Wolves?
Well,
I think you played by the way this season.
Yeah, Wolves are an interesting one. I don't think they don't seem to be the Wolves of the last couple of seasons. Love it. I don't think they'll be pushing for the top 6, top 7, but it's still a good side. They'll still finish inside the top 10 for me. I think this is an interesting one because I feel like both teams quite need a victory here. I feel like both teams sort of have lulled a bit of recent and are looking to kick on. And it's very interesting. And I think if Arsenal don't win this game, there will be more questions being asked than Mikel Arteta because, I know Wolves are a good side, but if you are going to push to the next level, because, you're finishing or pushing for European places and you want to push yourself into the Champions League again, these are the games where you need to show that you can win. They should really be your bread and butter because if I'm comparing it, it's not similar, but I always think of the game, although you didn't win the title that season, it was the season Leicester won the league, and obviously Danny Welbeck scored that late goal, and it looked like Arsenal could go on win the title from there. And these are the sort of games, if you are going to get back to that level of pushing for titles, that you need to be winning. And as I said with Arsenal, their defence has definitely looked improved this season with the likes of Gabriel and David Luiz look good this year, but it's just going forward. And it doesn't really make sense for me going forward because you've got very, very good players. You've got Aubameyang, you've got Lacazette, you've got Pepe, although he's banned now, obviously, after his headbutt on Alioski on the weekend. But it's not like a team like Sheffield United where your attackers just aren't up to the quality. We know Aubameyang's up to the quality, but it seems ever since he signed that new contract and ever since he scored against us on the opening day, he just hasn't looked at the races at all. And I don't know what that issue is. I think this game is actually going to be a very, not a turgid affair, but I feel like it could be quite a struggle because both teams don't want to lose instead of both teams want to win the game. So I think Arsenal, it seems they're at a stage now where they seem to be more of afraid of losing than going to try and win a game. I feel like that's happening, and I think this game's going to be another draw for you guys, and I think it's going to be 1-1.
Wolves also don't really score a lot of goals. That's the good thing. I think when they beat you 1-0, I don't know if it was Neto or Podence who scored that day. They really do struggle a lot to score goals these days too, but we also do. But I'm really hoping we get something from this game. So I'm going to go for a 2-1. You're going for a 1-1?
Yeah, I'll go for 1-1. I just think both teams are still quite wary in regard to they don't want to open themselves up too much to be hit, especially with Arsenal. I think, as I said, your defence has definitely improved, but going forward, it just seems to be a total swap from what we've seen in previous seasons.
Yeah, speaking of titles, how many years do you think Arsenal are away from winning a title? 2, 5, 10?
I don't know. Because I was quite confident with Arteta going into the season that he could make a big effect this season like he did towards the end of the last, but he seems to maybe not gone backwards, but he doesn't seem to have upped the level this season, really. It seems to sort of just stayed at the same level that you have the odd good performance against a big side, but in the games you need to win like this, like the Leeds games, it doesn't seem to be there. And I can't really put a time frame on how long you are away from the title, because at the moment it seems you're not going to win one anytime soon, because I don't see any improvement. Yes, it could be changed by the end of the season, and I think Arteta is someone to keep the ship steady. But whether he's that man to really take you on and win the title, I don't know. I thought he could be to take you up into, finishing fourth and third from what I saw to the back end of last season, but it doesn't look like it from what I'm seeing. So I think if you're looking at it from that way, I'd say you're still at least 5 years off, because you got to look how long it took Liverpool to get back from where Klopp took over to where they are now. And I think that's the level that Arsenal can get back to. And, I think if Arsenal really were going to get someone in to change the club, you would have been looking, instead of likes of Emery, the likes of Arteta, you should have been looking at someone maybe like Julian Nagelsmann, who obviously went from Hoffenheim and then went to RB Leipzig and is doing very well at RB Leipzig now. But again, I just think there's still another manager that needs to come in before you will start challenging for titles again. I think this squad still needs a bit of a refresh. I still think it's a bit stale. There's some players that Arsene Wenger signed, there's some players that Emery signed, and I think there just needs to be a bigger clear out. The likes of, I know Xhaka's played a lot this season, but I think, if you're comparing him to the likes of the centre midfielders that Chelsea have, that City have, that Liverpool have, it's still not at that level. And I still think it's still a total reshape and rethink of the club needs to happen before you are going to win a title.
Yeah, so forget about top four. Do you think Arsenal will finish in the top six? Yes or no?
I think you can. Whether you do is a totally different question. From this early on in the season, if I'm judging from what I've seen from beginning till now, no. But I do still think you have it in you guys to change it around, and you can do it. It's just you're not showing it. I think if you can start scoring goals, of course you can, because you seem to have sorted the defensive part of your game out a bit better. But again, for you guys, it's just inconsistency. And I think that's been a problem for many, many years now, that on some match days you look like you could be league contenders, and on other match days you look like a team who could finish 12th or 13th. And I think you can finish top six. From what I've seen from the start of the season until now, I don't think it's going to happen. But, there's plenty of the season left. We're only in match day 10 here, so there's still plenty of things that can be changed.
Yeah, so we've seen West Brom and Sheffield. You've played both teams. We've seen Everton and Leeds. You've played both teams. We've seen Arsenal and Wolves. You've played both teams. And here are another two teams that you've played, West Ham and Aston Villa. Aston Villa probably played you off the park that day, but you're quite unlucky not to get something away from West Ham. These are the two teams that make me feel like top six is going to be very, very hard, because teams like this have improved. Which team has impressed you most this season, West Ham, Aston Villa?
I'd say Aston Villa, but again, they're so inconsistent. I feel like when Aston Villa aren't expected to win the game, they look excellent. They look brilliant. And then the games, I just knew they wouldn't beat Brighton, because it's a game they're expected to win. And I always feel that with Aston Villa, that they always seem to mess it up against the easier teams. West Ham obviously had that terrible opening day performance against Newcastle, and then came back. Again, a bit like Aston Villa. Well, this has always been West Ham. I feel like you only seem to see them play well and win against the big teams. And then when they come to play like us at home, I know they beat us, but they were very, very poor. That game against Tottenham, you spoke up, when they come back from 3-0 down to equal 3-3. That's what West Ham have sort of been about for quite a few years now. I think this game's going to be very interesting, because both teams are probably going to be looking at this game and thinking, well, we can win this game. And I think it's very interesting to see who sort of takes it upon themselves to implement themselves. But I really do think that Aston Villa will come out victorious here, because for me, they just have looked better than West Ham this season. I think away from home, they're a lot more suited to playing at Villa Park. Villa Park, I think it's just a lot more pressure on them to dominate possession instead of trying to hit teams on the counter-attack like they did against you guys. But yeah, I think I'm confident that Villa will get the win here, so I'm going to go for 2-1.
I actually think West Ham are going to win back-to-back defeats for Villa. I'm going to go for West Ham 2, Aston Villa 1. I say Aston Villa played you off the park, but they did worse to us. They would have scored 6 goals on that day, so they've played really well. West Ham 2 also, they won against you. They should have gotten something away from our game. And the final game, but the first game on Monday that I saved for the last one, is going to be Leicester against Fulham. Now, Leicester at home, they lost to West Ham. They lost to Aston Villa. but away from home is where they've been very good, like against City, against Leeds United, and they're up against you guys. Is this a game you want something from?
So we had this really tough run of full fixtures with Everton, Leicester, Man City, and Liverpool. And I was looking at the Everton game as something, right? If we can get something here, it means we're getting something. And these 4 games, I feel like we need to get something, but I just can't see it happening because, the games where we've looked good in games are games where we've not conceded in the first 40 seconds, first 10 minutes. We've conceded so many goals this season in the opening 5 minutes of halves, whether that be the first or the second half. And it's just lapses in concentration. Like we look good in parts against Everton. We look good for a majority of the West Ham game, but it's just lapses in concentration that are costing us. And we've got the likes of Harvey Barnes, James Maddison, Jamie Vardy coming after us. So it's going to be a tough ask. But I think we'll look good. It will look good in this game. I'm not too confident about getting a result just because I think Leicester will be looking to bounce back from quite poor performance at Anfield. But as you said, the home record isn't great, and I think it'll be interesting to see how we line up because if I'm being honest, our starting number against Everton wasn't our strongest. There was no Mitrovic, there was no Anguissa in there. Loftus-Cheek, I'm still not bought by him. Yes, he won the penalty and scored a goal on the weekend, but that's been the first time he's put in a good performance since he signed for us. So I think it'll be interesting to see how we line up against them. I think it will probably be a sort of midfield 3 of Reed, Anguissa and Kearney, and then hopefully Mitrovic back in the side with Reed and Lookman. I'm confident we'll give them a good game. I'm confident of that. We've given a lot of teams good games this season, but just getting the points over the line. I don't think we'll be able to get something out of this game. I just think Leicester have too much quality for us, although they do have that poor home record. But I think it will be a very, very close game, but they'll probably just edge us out with a 2-1 win.
Seems like every team we're talking about here has beaten Arsenal and Fulham. Leicester, another team who've beaten Arsenal away from home. I think you've actually answered every question I was about to ask. I was about to ask you how comes Mitrovic started on the bench against us. I remember when we were doing the preview, the first game week, we were talking about how important it's going to be, and then
it was a very tough international break for him. He obviously missed the deciding penalty in the Scotland playoff final. Then that's 120 minutes played. He's then played 90 minutes in the next Nations League games. So it's very, very. I think fitness wise, it was just the reason he didn't start. I don't think it was anything to do mentally. I think he hasn't. I don't think he's looked 100% fit all season. Really, I think there's been a lot of times where he's looked 50, 60% fit, 70% fit, but I don't think he's looked fully on his game. And so I think that's what cost us. But I think he should be back in the starting lineup come Leicester.
Speaking of penalties, Dom, I'm very sorry. I mean, this was against West Ham, and this was against Everton, and I think also against Sheffield. Mitrovic missed another one. So, what is it? Just bad luck? Is this just the lack of practice?
This isn't bad luck because we've been terrible at penalties for a few years now. I think since 2017, we've only scored about half our penalties. I mean, 16-17 was a crazy season. We missed like 7 penalties or something like that. It was crazy. There was one we missed 2 in one game against QPR, our local rivals, and then lost the game. It's just something, and there just doesn't seem to be any reason to who's taken them. Obviously Mitrovic took the first one. He is our designated penalty taker. He scored a couple last season. And then obviously Lookman went up against West Ham. I was like, okay. And then now we've got Ivan Cavallero, who I didn't even think should have been on the pitch at that stage. I would have subbed him off. And, Mitrovic said in an interview on International Duty, he's Fulham's #1 penalty taker. He was on the pitch for both of them. Apparently it was a hamstring problem for the West Ham one. But I don't know why he didn't take the one against Everton. And this is what I don't get is that the penalties, it is down to there just not been good technique to them. It's not like we've been unlucky and the keepers have saved them. Mitrovic hit the bar. Lookman had that Panenka. Cavallero plants his standing foot right next to the ball. That's if he's going to hit it on the right hand side, he's going to either stack it or sky over the bar. So I think that it's just down to poor technique, really. And I don't understand. If you've got this poor penalty record, just get the ball, put it down, and hit it hard and hope it goes in, or pick somewhere and just hit it there. I look at penalty takers like, back a few years ago, you'd have John Walters for Stoke, who would just hit it as hard as he could towards the goal. Yeah. Jamie Vardy does something similar. Billy Sharp for Sheffield United. For me, if you've got such a poor penalty record, just go with that. Just hit it at the goal. Don't just be decisive. Choose somewhere. Hit it in that corner. Hit it that side of the goal. And if the keeper saves it, the keeper saves it. But then you don't get embarrassed with. We're doing how many different ways can you miss a penalty this season?
Yeah, just some quick answers so that you don't make this too long. Do you want Loftus-Cheek to be starting for you guys? Just yes or no?
Not at the moment, no. I think he actually works better for us coming off the bench. I think Kearney works better from the start, and then bringing Loftus-Cheek as sort of an impact player off the bench. I think at the moment, from what I've seen, is what works best.
And who do you want to take the next penalty for you guys?
I just think give it to Mitrovic. You know, he's our main striker. He should be taking it. He said he's the number one taker, so I just give him the next one and hopefully he puts it in the back of the net, because he did take quite a few good ones last season. The one off the post against Leeds, took a brilliant one right into the corner against Birmingham or Cardiff, I think it was. So yeah, I think next penalty should just be Mitrovic who's coming out to take it.
And for the West Ham game, last minute penalty, who did you want to take the penalty? Because I remember I watched your reaction with Jack and Dara after the game, and you guys weren't that happy. So who did you want to step up for that penalty that day?
Well, I would have said Mitrovic. And if Mitrovic has got a hamstring issue, it should be Tom Kearney, the captain. For me, you know, they've both taken penalties for us before. They've both scored penalties for us before. Unless they decided in adjustment, I can't see them why they decided Lookman, but I would have said Kearney or Mitrovic. Mitrovic being my first choice because he's our striker, and second of all, Kearney because he's put penalties away for us before. And I think that's what I don't get. There's no consistency with it. You have a designated penalty taker. I understand if they're not on the pitch, there's someone else who takes it. But for the other two penalties that have been missed, Mitrovic has been on the pitch for both of them.
Yeah, probably a thing of confidence. No one really wants to step up when you're struggling. Like no one wants to step up. I'm assuming that's the same case at Arsenal. If we get a penalty today and Aubameyang isn't on the pitch, I don't expect anyone to step up. So you say 2-1 to Leicester. I think you're going to get a couple of goals. I'm going to go for Leicester 3, Fulham 2, just because I expect Leicester to be amongst the top 4 this season. They're very, very good. So yeah, 3-2 to Leicester. Thank you, Dom, for coming on for the predictions. I appreciate your insight on Fulham. All the best against Leicester, and all the best for the rest of the festive season. I'm not sure when we're playing you guys again, but definitely I'll have you back again. Which game are you looking forward to most apart from Fulham this weekend?
I think it's got to be Chelsea-Tottenham. I'd love to see Mourinho get one over Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Although there's no fans there, it definitely would be a nice thing to see Mourinho getting one over Chelsea fans who seem to think they can challenge for the league under Frank Lampard, which I don't think is a possibility whatsoever.
Yeah, which game do you think will have the most goals this weekend?
I think you just got to look like at Everton, Leeds. I think both teams like to score goals. Both teams don't seem to be as good at the back. I mean, so obviously Leeds did get a clean sheet on the weekend against you guys, but you didn't really offer too much for them to to defend against, especially being down 10 men for so long. But yeah, no, I think Everton and Leeds will probably have the most goals this weekend. Yeah,
painfully. Team that will definitely keep a clean sheet. There is Brighton, Liverpool, City, Burnley, West Brom, Sheffield, Arsenal, Wolves, Leicester, Fulham, West Ham, Villa.
I'm going to go with Man City. I think Burnley, although they can score goals, they don't look like it too much this season. So I think, yeah, team confident to keep a clean sheet will definitely be Man City against Burnley, especially as it's at the Etihad as well.
And then 3 players that will definitely score. I'll start with this one. I'll be nice to Dom. Lookman scored a very good goal away to Sheffield. I'm going to give him one in this one against Leicester. I'm also going to go for probably Gabriel Jesus at City if he starts, and also Shea Adams at Southampton against United. 3 players that will definitely score for you.
I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin will grab one against Leeds. He's the informed striker. He's a top goal scorer. I think Vardy will probably get one against us, and I'm fairly confident that Heung-min Son will bang one in against Chelsea.
Awesome. I'll put Dom's links in the description. Make sure you go out and check out Fulhamish. Second time on the channel. I appreciate you. And where can they follow you on Twitter?
You can follow me on Twitter personally at Radio Bets. And if you want any of our Fulham stuff at Fulhamish, you can just follow us at Fulhamish Pod on both Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, I remember looking at his Twitter a few weeks ago. He was very frustrated talking about he'd rather watch another game than watch Fulham. I was just like, oh, I understand the feeling. So thanks for coming on. Thank you everyone for watching. Keep staying safe, and I'll catch up with you guys later.